going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of JaAR. JaAR, for those of you that may be new, stands for Joe
and Amy
Review, and this is our now twice weekly show where we review the Magic stories. And this week we are back with more Streets of New Capenna stories, and this week we are here with, or today I guess, I'm so used to saying this week. Today we are here for another side story, specifically side story number 2, What You Expect to See, by Caitlin Zivanovic. My quick review at the top of this story was, or at the top of this, is I thought this one was fun. I enjoyed my time reading it. So I think it's worth your time as well. If you have not gotten a chance to read it, I think you should. It's fun. There's like little twists and turns that, like, if you see it, probably feels pretty good, but even if you don't, getting to like read where they're going with it is good in and of itself. It's not like quite like a mystery, but like kind of. But anyway, that's my quick review up at the top.
Yeah, I agree. It was fun. We'll get into that.
Yeah. So, if you have not gotten a chance to read this story for yourself and that quick review makes you feel interested in checking it out, the top link in the description down below will take you there. We try to do our best to remove as many barriers as possible, so you don't have to go searching for it. It's right there for you. Or if you want to remind yourself of it, if it's been maybe a while since you have read the story for yourself, and you want to be reminded of it as we discuss it today. So this side story, before we get onto the full review itself, hi, thank you for being here. Welcome to the channel. We have 3 channels that we work on here among this Geek for All family of channels that we call it. This channel here, Geek for All, we have Video Games for All, and we have Gluten Free for All. Those other 2 channels linked down in the description box below as well. Please, while you are on any of our channels, if you are enjoying the things that we're doing and you want to make sure that you see more of it and or all of it, please don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell, meaning that you will get notifications whenever any of our videos come out, or if you're on this channel, if you're on this channel, whenever we go live, which is every Monday and Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time right here on this channel. I say every. Today, the day this video comes out, is Monday. We will be here streaming MTG Arena, as we do every Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. for Magic Monday. This Friday, though, we will not be streaming as we typically do from 8 to 10 p.m. because it is Streets of New Capenna pre-release time. And for those of you who may not be aware, for pre-releases, we go to our sponsor store down in Poughkeepsie, New York, Champion Card Collector. We open pre-release packs live at the pre-release, and we post that video up. I say live, we're not live streaming, but we are present at the pre-release event. We open the product, we film it, and we get that video out to all of you as soon as possible. So whether you're able to get out to a pre-release near you, whether you're not, whether you want to live vicariously through us, or you just want to see more openings, because more people opening cool stuff, those videos will be out for you. That video and a promotional video seeing what everybody in the store is opening at at those afternoon and evening events. You can check that out as soon as we get it up to you on the channel. And again, that's just because we don't know how long it's going to take to edit and upload and all that other fun stuff. So definitely make sure, as I said, that you have that bell rung so that you will get those notifications, because for that in particular, I cannot tell you when it's going to be up. That's just how that's the nature of that beast. Yeah. But other Fridays that are not this Friday, we are live 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern doing whatever video game we happen to be playing at the time. Next Friday, the last Friday in April, we will be back with more X-Men Legends 2 Rise of Apocalypse on the PlayStation 2. It's a lot of fun. We're definitely getting close to the end. I don't remember exactly how much is left, but there's not much more until we get to Apocalypse, and so that is very likely the end of the game. So definitely stay tuned for that, and then I don't think you're going to want to miss what's coming after that either. So definitely stay tuned for that. And again, we'll have another JaAR in between now and then, so
the apocalypse really is the end of the game.
This game that we call life.
Hashtag real life.
No. This story had a bit of hashtag real life, so let's get into the full review itself. Thank you for doing any of those things, supporting us. We really, really appreciate it. It really goes a long way, right. So we appreciate that. Right at the top, the story talks about, and you mentioned this, there's a fair bit of symbolism in this story. And I don't want to steal your thunder for what you were saying about it, because you talked to me about it, but what did you feel about the symbolism?
what I felt about it was I would have liked to have talked about it, but there's no point because they do that.
Right. I just didn't want to say that, like pull that out from under you. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. One thing that I found kind of interesting though is there were some things that were done here that were, I don't know whether they were intentional or not. We were kind of talking about this at the beginning. They talk about, there was a lot of bird imagery mentioned here. Like 2 blue birds at the end, but there were red and green birds at the beginning. There were like, there was the magpie, Lacey the magpie, or no, Lagrella the magpie, excuse me. Lacey was a different character.
There was a robin.
There was a robin. There were a lot of different birds that were discussed here for varying reasons. But what I found interesting was that green and red bird that were mentioned right at the top. For those who don't follow us on Twitter, and you can, that link is also down below, and Facebook, if you're interested. That wasn't really a purposeful plug, it just happened to be there. But if you don't follow us on Twitter, you didn't see, but we posted that we took that like quiz to see what family you're a part of, and you got the Obscura, which is what the majority of this story is about,
right?
Which is white, blue, black. Now, if you're aware of who Amy is as a person, and especially if you've watched our Pokemon series over on Video Games for All, when we play Pokemon, our character's name is...
Gruel.
Because, Amy, you are...
Gruel.
And so...
So the only 2 colors that are not Obscura are red and green, which is Gruel.
And yet, when Amy took the quiz, they were like, you should be Gruel. And I was like...
You should
be Obscura. Thank you. And I was like, really? I was like, the one family that is neither red nor green in any capacity? Plus, then when we're talking about the Obscura story, the first duo of birds that we see is red and green.
And if you watch our Pokemon series ever,
yes,
any of them,
yes,
I talk about how much I hate all the birds.
Yes, hates them. Especially if you're familiar with early Pokemon, you should watch. We have our full playthrough, Amy's full playthrough, for the first time ever of Pokemon Red. Never seen the games before in any capacity.
Right.
So her first full-time playthrough of Pokemon Red and her first playthrough of Pokemon Silver for the 2nd generation as well. And we are currently uploading her playthrough of Pokemon Sapphire, the 3rd generation. And again, first time for any of these, seeing many, if not all of these Pokemon, things like that.
The first 2 generations are completed
Fully
on the
done.
channel.
Yes, so you should definitely check those out. And like I said, Sapphire coming out every Tuesday. But interesting for folks who know generations 1 and 2, legendary birds aplenty. And so that was definitely an interesting thing with those 2 generations, is seeing Amy's reaction to all those legendary birds. So definitely check that out. But yes, so like you said, the fact that it's green and red, so it's Gruel colors, non-Obscura colors, and it's birds, it's like, come on. You know, we found that very interesting. Then, I was reading...
It's like it was laughing at me.
Now, one thing that this...
You got Obscura on that quiz.
One thing that this story heavily focused on was the prophecy. The prophecy that Tivit, as well as many other fortune tellers, all kind of simultaneously experienced. All but Rafine, by the way. We figured that out way later, but still. And when Tivit gives this prophecy, you know, the things that Tivit says are what the characters focus on, what Kami's and Keza focus on, the main 2 lead characters in this story. But the words are important, but obscure, no pun intended, and vague on purpose. But the text surrounding it, describing everything, I wrote this down because I was not paying enough attention, I guess, in that earlier part. So I wrote down this quote because I was like, this is dumb the way they're describing this. I was like, they're using words that, like, they shouldn't be using for these stories because it didn't make any sense to me. And then later on, I mentioned it and Amy's like, And I was like, yes, I know, I get it now.
That was the point.
But the description surrounding what was going on to Tivit when they worked, if I gave Tivit a gender earlier, I apologize. When they had their vision, that the quote is, halos formed in the swirling light, and then later on, the sound rose to a crescendo. And so because those two phrases were so close to one another, there was like one line in between them. But the fact that they were so close to one another, I was like, you can't just use the term halo in this set. You can't just use the word crescendo in this set when you're not talking about halo, the product or the drink or whatever, and crescendo like the event, the crescendo. But, as we said, I'm dumb. And when I was reading it the first time, I'm like, you can't just talk about stuff like that, and yet that's blatantly part of the prophecy, Joe. Come on. So I was upset with myself, but then very happy that I'd already written it down, because it was like, it wasn't just the words about like a kitten hiding the cream and the birds, like the bird imagery or whatever, like it was, or the corviscent or whatever, that like this is it. Everything that was going on around them also mattered in that time frame. So I appreciated now that I wrote that down then, even though I wrote it down for the wrong reasons. And I don't mind telling you that. I also loved that apparently the Obscura, commies in this case, but that the Obscura are able to like conjure lenses out of nowhere to like film things and then send that report back to Rafine or whatever. Like, sure, I get it. It's supposed to just be like, oh, this cool thing is happening. Let me, film that very quickly on this device that I have right here at my fingertips. But at the same time, if something crazy is happening, I mean, I guess it's filmed very often, but I tend to find, like, especially if I'm like driving or something, it's not really the safest thing in the world to do if I'm driving, to like, oh, let me pull out my phone and film this. Oh, I got in a car accident. What do you mean?
The point is that gangs of New York have eyes everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, but I thought it was specific to the Obscura. I didn't think it was just anybody in the city could do this. Like, because it's the Obscura and they're seeking knowledge and trying to gather all this information and stuff, yes. I thought it might have been specific to them. I don't know that for a fact. It seemed that way just based on their MO. But as someone who makes content for the internet, that seems very useful to me.
Yeah.
Where you could just be like, I'm filming it now. Like, you just like open your hand.
You could just like pull a memory out of your brain and be like, it's recorded.
Yeah.
I didn't have to record it. It just automatically did that.
Yeah. But I imagine I'm not the only one, so if you agree, and if we didn't mention this, any thoughts that you might have on this story at all, whether it be opinions that we mentioned about the story, or something that maybe we didn't talk about, as always, any thoughts that you might have, keep the conversation going in the comments down below. We would love, love, love to hear from you. There was a quote that you had me write down that I'll read for you, and then you can talk about it. This was a quote that about commies, the main character, Rafine's spy master, as she is titled. There was nothing she did not know, only things she did not know yet.
Yeah, I had you write that down because, well, so there wasn't much else to have you write down, but that one I thought was cool.
Yeah.
This is a quote that I hope I remember and think about in moments where I'm feeling like a failure. Sure. Or I'm feeling like far away from accomplishing a certain goal. I hope I can tell myself that at some point, anything I don't know is simply just something I don't know yet, if it's something I want to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if it's something I will experience at some point, or if it's something that someone else might tell me. So I like that quote because looking at it that way is sort of this broad spectrum of opportunity.
Yeah, sure.
In a way that most people don't look at not knowing something as being an opportunity to learn it. And when they do look at it that way, it's kind of looked at singularly there. As opposed to creating that broad spectrum of opportunity. I think most people don't really think that way. And maybe I'm wrong. And I hope I am, because that is such an uplifting and true, I think, way of looking at things. That is in some ways transcendent of situations in any kind of capacity, right? Because each situation is a singular situation, and that can be sort of an umbrella that can keep rain off of you from much higher up, so that all those situations are encompassed underneath the umbrella. And provide you with a level of hope that is significantly higher than what I would think most people have, and much higher than I have, and at a height where I would love for everyone to be. Yeah.
Fair enough. Like I said, makes sense to me. We talked about when there was the description of them going into Rafine's sanctum. You said it, but I was also thinking it, which made me chuckle, of course, because why would we both make this reference? But because it seemed to us like that was the reference they were trying to make. Rafine's sanctum reminded you of... Do you remember? I don't want to put you on the spot.
No.
It reminded us of, like, the main location in Minority Report. The description of, like, the building and, like, what everything looked like and the people that were around or whatever.
Well, that wasn't what reminded me of Minority Report so much as just the plot. Where they were like, well, these people are gonna see these things before they happen, and then they're gonna try to do something about it, and blah, blah, blah. That's not really Minority Report specific. That's like a kind of common trope, but...
I was thinking of it when you said it, because the area, Rafine's sanctum, was being described, and it sounded like the locale in Minority Report, so that's what made me think of it. So maybe on a subconscious level it did the same for you, and made you then say it at that time, as opposed to earlier or later or whatever. Then, I mean, come on. You have a character in the story named Oscar. O-S-K-A-R. Maybe it's Oscar, but
Seriously,
Oscar. And the first line about him that Kami's talks about says, and I quote, "His trash can treasure hunts and sewer salvages revealed a lot about people." End quote. Really? Oscar,
like how
trash can.
Green fur instead of skin.
Maybe he's a little grouchy sometimes. Maybe. I was like, come on, man. You just have...
Maybe he lives on a busy street.
Yeah, in the trash can. Oh my god. Super funny. But also, like... Anyway.
Maybe there's a yellow bird.
Instead
of a green bird, or a blue bird, or a red bird.
I will say, something that this story I think did very well made you care about the relationship between Kami's and Keiza, right? Whereas, I mean, these are short stories. They are usually, for the side stories at least, one-off stories about these obscure characters, no pun intended, who are you're likely never going to see again, right? Their cards exist, whether it be in the main set or the Commander offshoot, like, that's when you see these characters. And so for people who are making decks out of them, maybe that will matter to you a lot more. You're going to, like, love the story behind your character, right? Or your general. God bless you.
Okay. Thank you.
They're gonna make you're gonna love the story that talks about your general or your card in your commander deck or whatever. And so they make you care about that relationship, and then they like manipulate the crap out of you because you care about that relationship. So there's that moment where Keiza and Tivit are under this balcony that's about to collapse, and Kami's rescues the both of them. But she doesn't. She rescues Tivit and Keiza's jacket, not Keiza herself. And it was very subtle. They really only mentioned it once, and I mean, I guess it's not subtle, it's not really the word, but they tell you that they are cephalid. They being Kami's and Keiza. And they're like bioluminescent markings, and they glow different colors at different points in the story. But it really doesn't...
They don't have bones.
Well, I was going to say, but their physicality doesn't come into play, thank you, until this part of the story. It's the only part where it's discussed in any capacity, because otherwise they're just walking around like normal people, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're squid people, but the story doesn't really acknowledge that, but besides their bioluminescent markings and this one moment with Keiza where the jacket comes away and Kami's like, oh my god, she's dead. She's under there. I have to get there, right? Tivit produces water to put out the flame. They then go over, everybody goes over to try to like move the balcony around, and they look for Keiza, and then a hand comes out from between the two buildings. And Keiza kind of reforms her body a bit because she's a squid.
Yeah.
And squid fit through very tiny spaces, and there are a bunch of really cool studies and videos and stuff on octopi that you can look at and see how amazing and resourceful and intelligent and moldable and pliable they are. And it's fascinating stuff if you've ever looked at that. Amy turned me on to a lot of that stuff because I know
I love them.
Yes. So that was something that when that happened, both of us were just like like big smiles, like like super happy. And then again, Case is just like, no bones, you know, and like pops back into form.
Did it!
So that was great. And again, but that whole section is like this roller coaster because it's like, oh my god, is she actually dead? Oh, she's fine. And not only is she fine, so you feel that relief, but she says, no bones, and pops back in, so you're laughing because it's funny. But then you're sad again because Kami's like fires her, right?
Yeah.
And like is like, you're not doing your work properly, get the hell out of here, like basically give me your gun and your badge, right? Like it wasn't that, but it was 100% give me your gun and your badge. And she goes away. But as the trope continues, when Kami's was later in trouble, who's there to help her? Keiza is.
No.
Who are you gonna call? Keiza.
Ghostbusters.
So Keiza is there, and not only is Keiza there, following her like she wasn't supposed to, but was, she's using a tactic that was taught to her by Kami's. And so, of course, after all of that, and I truly thought that it was going to be the kind of thing where when they confronted Lagrella the Magpie, who was behind it all, I truly thought it was going to be the kind of thing where Kami's was going to say, like, I knew you were listening in, so I fired her so that you wouldn't think about her anymore, and then she could follow me and be incognito because of it or whatever. Like, that trope just lived in my head because that's what it felt like it was going to be. It wasn't that far, but it was that moment of like, Kami saying, no, I was the one who wasn't listening to you. Because she accused Keiza of like not actually listening, not learning her lesson, not doing what she was supposed to do. And then meanwhile, at the end, Keiza saves Kami's life by using the tricks that Kami's taught her with the mirror and disrupting the contracts and things like that, reversing the spell onto Lagrella instead of having it be on Kami. So like all of that stuff shows that no, Kami's was in the wrong, so to speak, and Keiza doing what she was supposed to be doing but wasn't supposed to be doing was in fact what saved the day in the end. And so that worked out really well, but it was just this emotional roller coaster with the relationship that the two of them had. Like, Kami's really had that respect and, like, mentioned many times, she, being Keiza, is the best at this, and she's great at this, and she's studied all these things, and she's so knowledgeable. And then come that one part, oh my god, she's dead. Okay, she's not dead. Oh, that's actually funny because she's lighthearted about it. Oh, but now she's fired because she's not actually as good as Kami's thought she was. Okay, well now Kami's is in trouble. Now Keiza's here. Kami's is apologizing. Like, it was this, like I said, just this whole like emotional wave that we were all riding along with them. And in the end, what did we both think? It was fun. It was a fun ride, if you will, to ride through those waves.
Yeah, are you going to talk about the Dame stuff?
Oh, so that was another like trope that was in there.
Yeah.
Especially with Lacey Lanine. When they mentioned Lacey Lanine, they were just like, Lacey Lanine, reporter. And Amy and I were both like, so it's the like PI, black and white movie.
She's looking for a PI.
Yeah, the dame walked through the door and I knew immediately. Like, it's just, that is absolutely what that seemed like to us. It was like...
Which was great. It's perfect. It's 1930s, which is Art Deco. Yeah. If anyone was wondering what that connection was supposed to be there.
Yeah. Lacey Lanine, reporter. Like, you hear it said in that way. Like, it's just very much like,
She walked into my office and I knew right away, you said.
The long cigarette coming out of a mouth. Like, it's just very much that trope. From even just that line is what we both thought of and kind of riffed off of now and then. We're just doing it again. But, then you wanted to talk, the last thing I wrote down, right? I mean, we talked about the emotional roller coaster, which is like kind of the closing thoughts on the story, really. But one of the things that you had me write down, or that I wrote down because we were talking about it, and you brought this up, and I hadn't even thought of it, was Lagrella, right, being the villain of the story, says, "You mean Lacey? Lagrella twisted the heavy rings on her fingers. Not my girlfriend."
And I was like, she's twisting her rings. Does that mean she's married to her? Because, like, a thing that people do when talking about their marriages, or particularly their marriages that are maybe not as successful or doing great at the moment, they will twist their wedding ring or, like, take it on and off, or
fiddle
something
with it
like
in some
that.
Capacity,
I used to do that a lot because rings are very uncomfortable on my ring fingers, just because they're like super tilted. So they do like a wobbly thing, like this, like a pivoty thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's irrelevant. But that's a thing. That's like a psychological thing, or like a thing that people think about when they're maybe like doing an interrogation where they're trying to ask a spouse questions about what happened to the spouse, like trying to find out if maybe they took part in a disappearance or a murder with their spouse and things like that. So it just made my mind go there. Like, oh, is she married to her then?
Yeah, like I said, I thought that was very...
I don't know that means that, because it might just be like, oh, like a way for them to like describe what the character looks like.
Sure.
And like a typical like tick that she has or whatever.
Sure.
And then like... I just thought that was like a weird place to do that if it didn't mean more. And maybe that's just because in this story I kept looking for symbolism that I could talk about that they didn't explain. So yeah.
Yeah, but it was interesting
maybe
to me.
I'm just reading too much into it.
No, maybe. It's possible, but I thought it was like I said, definitely interesting enough to at least write down. Like, you know, when I saw that, I was just like, wow. Or when you mentioned it, I was like, wow, okay. I didn't think of it that way, but could be. It could be that. Who can say? So yeah, I mean, like I said, and like Amy said, there wasn't a lot more to talk about with this story. It was a fun ride, but that's kind of about it. There was, like I said, if you have more insight onto the bird symbolism, because like even those two bluebirds at the end, and Keiza's like, Kami's, and like, you know, and Kami's like, let's just keep walking. And that's the end, right? That's the end of the story. So like, there could have been more with the bluebirds there, but there wasn't. They just moved on and ended the story there. So like, if you have more that you want to talk about with the symbolism of the birds, we would love to hear from you. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't necessarily know what they were getting at there. And maybe it's a color palette thing again with the like maybe it's kind of referencing the aspects that are blue in Magic.
Okay, sure.
Like, okay, like maybe they're being surveilled.
Yeah, I mean,
or you know,
cephalids are typically blue, so to a degree that might make sense, right? But yeah, like I said, if you have better insight on it than that,
right,
definitely let us know in the comments down below. We would love to hear from you because, hey, helping us out with obscure, third time in the video, like the first two times truly wasn't intentional. That time it kind of was, but helping us out with kind of obscure references in that way is a great way for you to join us as we show off our
#Vorthos Pride.
That's right. Thank you all so very much for coming for any and all of these videos that you do. We really hope you're enjoying everything that we're doing here on this Geek for All family of channels, because it means a lot to us.
Comments, because we do read them, and if you have any insight on any of these stories ever, we want to hear it.
And especially if we say something wrong, or like you feel like we've misinterpreted, or
right, or you just disagree.
Yeah, any and all of those. We're always interested in learning. That's why we do these things.
Right.
We want to have that discussion, have that learning moment, and etc. So yeah, we would love to hear from you. We will be back with another JaAR this Thursday or Friday, depending on our filming schedule and when we can get it out to you. Because the JaAR, even if we're going to be at the pre-release, but we can still like have it, auto-upload or whatever. So whenever it's going to be, we hope that you will come back and join us for another, because that will be main story number 3, because we're doing the stories in the order they were released. So main side, etc. And we'll be done with it sooner than you think. The pre-release is coming up, which means we'll hopefully have some opening videos on the channel as well for pre-release kits. Besides the one at pre-release itself, we'll have some from after the weekend as well to get you all some codes, by the way, for MTG Arena. I was
just gonna say, check those videos for codes.
That's right, because we only can use one. That's the rules, whether we like it or not.
We only can use one, yes.
What do you mean?
We each only can use one.
Yes.
Each account.
Yes. I was like, we each? But yes, no. We each collectively. Yeah, I was like, I don't, yeah, makes perfect sense. Anyway, I'm the one getting confused. I apologize. So, thank you.
So, we'll be giving multiple codes away, and it's not, you can only use one of them, but each person can only use one code for their account.
Correct.
For each set? Is that what it is?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. From the ones that come in pre-release kits. If there's ever some separately, that's probably different. But regardless, So thank you all so very much for being here for this. Don't forget to stay tuned to all of our other stuff that we have going on this channel, on our other channels. Like I said, subscribing and ringing that bell will make sure that you get notifications for any of our channels. Video Games for All has 3 new videos a week with 3 new series every week, and Gluten Free for All has a new video every month.
Yes.
The most recent one being gluten and lactose-free pizza that Amy did.
Right.
Really, really awesome, so you should definitely check that out. And that was made with the assistance of our live stream chat. So,
yep.
You should...
The toppings were chosen by the people.
So you should be there for our streams so that you can get in on that. We were just telling our family for Easter, in the Easter discussion, that our live stream, the Friday before Easter, we discussed cookies. Most of the time that we were on stream, like we were playing X-Men Legends, we were talking about cookies. So
yeah, we were like, do you have that recipe? Because we were talking about it on the stream and they said they wanted the recipe.
So definitely, we would love to have you on our streams. Just come check them out. And like I was saying about subscribing and ringing the bell, we really appreciate the support. Don't forget, likes and shares are super helpful as well. So that is going to be the end of this particular episode. Thank you all so very much for being here. For now, from us here at the Geek for All family of channels, I've been Joe.
And I'm Amy.
And as we always say, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.